Welcome everybody to the Thriving LDS Singles Podcast. We're really excited to be here today. This is Kay and we have Kim with us and Juan. And today we're going to discuss the conference and how exciting that was. There is so much information and so much good stuff, but we can only take little bits at a time. And so we will probably have a few podcasts on the conference. But today we're going to just discuss our general feelings. And I'm going to start because I'm talking already. And I'm going to start because I'm excited because I live in Brisbane, Australia. And that was one of the temples that was announced. And we have what's been called the busiest small temple in the world. So we have been inundated and overworked for years. We often do more work in our little temple than some of the big temples do. So the fact we got a new temple is really exciting for us and not really a surprise. Of course, like everybody where they get a new temple, the first conversations is, I wonder where it's going to be.
Yeah.
And the fact he announced South Brisbane was very interesting because South Brisbane runs into another city called the Gold Coast. And we were probably predicting that the Gold Coast was going to get it. But the fact he actually said South Brisbane, you go, ooh.
So how far are you from, or you'll be from that temple?
These temples are going to be very close. And for Australia, that's like Australia's a country that's the size of America. And currently we have 5 temples in the capital cities of the states. And so this temple will probably be only an hour away from the one that we've got. So that's just unheard of. And it shows the massive growth of the church. It's just a mind-blowing growth.
That's awesome.
So I'll let someone else talk now. Kim, what
did you think about the temples, Juan? Were you excited by any of the new temples or?
Yeah, I was especially amazed that they announced one in Venezuela, considering the situation over there and people fleeing the country by thousands, Yeah. So that's really interesting to me. Like, what's going on? Like, are the members staying there? I don't know. It's just amazing that the Lord, revealed that. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen to Venezuela. Because isn't it their second temple there, you think?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I think there's one in Caracas, I believe. But anyways. And then the Philippines getting one.
So the goal of having temples dotted throughout the earth is, before we used to think dotted meant, just one in every big place. But now we're talking about
big continent.
Yeah. But now we're talking about like everybody being able to get to a temple with ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brazil is amazing. Brazil's, I think, is getting 2 more temples. And it's insane. Like, it's so many temples in Brazil now. Of course, Utah beats everybody.
Yeah, and they're getting more too. Didn't they announced 2 more in Utah?
Keep building over there.
Yeah. But yeah, so temples are always exciting. Everyone always waits for that final announcement and all of the temples. What else?
Covenants.
Yeah, covenants. I was so happy. I went to the temple the day before and it made such a big difference as I listened to the talks, and especially about the covenants, because I had just been there, and I will definitely plan to do that every time now because that made a big difference.
President Irene, he's the one that spoke specifically about temple covenants.
Yeah. Oh, well, and so did Oaks, talked about covenants.
Yeah. And a few other people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely a main theme, I thought, was the importance of covenants and keeping covenants.
Making and keeping covenants.
And the relationship that it creates, I think, was really stressed a lot.
Yeah, that was stressed. I think it used to be that you need to go to the temple, but no one sort of really explained why. Whereas now they're sort of, this is the strength. This is where you're going to get the strength and the wisdom and the guidance for your life. And it's, oh, I want that.
Yeah, it wasn't about just the checklist item kind of thing. They really talked about the value and importance and the meaning of it as well, which is really nice.
Yeah. So
And I
by the
guess that's
time
where,
all these temples, I was gonna say, so by the time all these temples are dedicated and in function, it would be over like 300 temples or something like that. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more they share with us the importance and the value and the benefit, I think it'll definitely draw more people to the temples and being in the temples and the value you get from that. So
yes, that list that President Nelson gave of what you'll gain from the temple. It was, as you said, it wasn't just a thing that you check off. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, I really want that. And it's interesting. I work in the temple twice a week. And so I worked last night. And yes, there's definitely we have full sessions every session. But last night we had full sessions in everything, the baptistry, the initiatories, the ceilings, everything was full. It was like, whoa, this is,
that's awesome.
We are bursting at the seams. But yeah, there's a definite, people are going, hey, this is a great idea. But I guess the thing we need to discuss is, how do temples fit? This is a great theme and we're saying this is exciting, but as singles, we don't quite fit to the great sealing power, how exciting that is. And you're going, yeah, well, I'm not sealed. Like, how's that going to work? And so I think, well, maybe we have some other discussions on it, but I think there's some feelings that, like, well, these are fantastic blessings. And so there are some definite blessings that we can get as singles, but there are bits that we feel left out on.
Oh gosh, I can't remember who gave it. I don't know if you guys can. It was a Saturday evening session. He talked about ceilings and the fact that kind of the line that I always hear, because that's a personal thing for me, is, oh, God will take care of it. Don't worry. But it was in the Saturday evening session. Let me look and see on my notes if I can remember it. But there was also Elder Bednar, I think. He was the one that talked about kayaking, right? No, not Bednar.
No.
Renland. He gave a devotional, BYU devotional, not too long ago, and I can post it in the Facebook group, about ceilings. And he also had a lot of words of comfort about when things don't go the way you planned, or when you're sealing, when you're divorced and you can't really, I'm trying to think of a politically correct way to say, you don't welcome the thought of spending eternity with whoever you were sealed to. He talked about that, and it was actually a very comforting, kind of soothing to my soul talk. And so I'll put it in the notes. But I also thought the one that they gave at conference, and I'll find his name, did a really good job of giving us some reassurance that way. But as far as covenants go, I mean, other than sealings, all of those covenants are still relevant, and whether you're a single or not, as far as going to the temple and it being meaningful. I don't know, Juan, what are your thoughts on being sealed?
I think, like, ultimately, it's for us to be sealed to God,
Yeah.
as individuals, really.
Yeah. That makes me feel even more sad. I'm like, well, okay, I can fathom the idea of not being sealed to a partner, but if I'm not sealed to God, that really makes me sad.
No, I mean, you are sealed to his promises, because we make covenants with him. And as we keep those covenants, then his promises will manifest in our lives. But we need to be sealed to him. Like, we need to be committed to him. And even beyond this life, things will be okay. Like, everything's going to make sense, and we'll get everything that we want, we deserve, that we're determined to receive from God. So,
I mean, all we can do is our part, right? There's things that are out of our control, but you're right in terms of building a relationship with God.
So I don't know whether this is the talk, but Elder Matthew L. Carpenter.
Yeah, that's the one.
Liberty. he spoke about the eternal blessings of being faithful to the covenant of marriage. And you're going, well, thanks, great. But a quote, he said, "It is important to understand that we receive the blessings of exaltation. We must demonstrate that we are willing to enter into and faithfully keep this new and everlasting covenant, either in this life or the next." So it's not that you have to have it in this life. It's just be willing. And I guess that attending the temple is one of the signs of being willing.
Exactly. I was talking to Kim the other day. We're talking about when the Lord invites us to, he said for us to be perfect like he is. He wasn't talking about our ability to become perfect, but rather our willingness to allow him to take us through the process of perfection. And definitely the temple is part of that. But like you said, Kate, that willingness, it's what really makes it happen, because it's not our ability, because we're
not able.
We can. But our willingness. I think that was the case with the rich man when the Savior said, well, you still lack something. Go sell everything that you have and give it to the poor and carry your cross and follow me. And then he talks about the man going away sad. But I think the Savior was, he was trying to see if he was at least willing to do that. Maybe as he was going back to like, okay, I'm going to go sell everything, the Savior would have been like, no, I was just kidding. I just wanted to see if you were willing.
As a test.
Psych. But yeah, I think the willingness, it's where we are in our heart is what really matters. That's what God looks at. Like the scripture says, God looks into the heart, not the exterior. Because sometimes we can be doing a lot of the works, but yet our heart is not in it. You know what I mean?
I thought that was it. It felt like people were saying to me, well, tick this box, tick this box, tick this box. And, you felt like, oh, well, I'm doing all the boxes, but didn't understand about a relationship with God. Like I missed that bit, which is what they're saying now, that all of the talks about covenants is like covenant is between you and God, and you're promising to do the best you can. He's saying, and I'll help you the rest of the way, but you have to turn your face towards the direction. And
that's why he said, he is the finisher of our faith. He'll take us the rest of the way.
So we only have to do this much, and he gets to do this much, but we have to show that we're willing.
Yeah.
So that term willingness and the covenants, actually going to the temple and then participating and thinking about the covenants you're making and seeing how you can put that into your daily life.
Yeah. One of the talks I really enjoyed was the one by Elder Piper, I believe. It was it was in the morning session. The one about trust.
Yeah.
Trust is a big thing, that the Lord expects from us, is to trust that he's going to provide, that he's going to come through for us. That all that we need to do is our little part, and trust that everything's going to take place, so that was really good talk.
Yeah, it was a good talk, because he also, I thought, spoke to something that I think is really relevant to a lot of singles, which is that in the world we have experience with betrayal of some kind. And so everyone experiences betrayal, whether they're single or not. But certainly when you go through divorce or even being a widow, that there's often lots of feelings of betrayal. And so he was talking about how that experience can really make it so we don't want to trust again. And because it was too painful, it hurt us. But I wrote down, I don't know if I can find it, but we still have to place our trust in, and basically was his message, even though our life experiences impact our ability to do that, we still have to be willing to and continue to learn to trust God and his character, and find ways to rebuild that trust in God if we have lost it for some reason because of our earthly experiences. So that was a really awesome talk.
Yeah, one of the things that he mentioned too is because of our lack of trust, sometimes we end up kind of like going to other sources that sometimes like immediate solutions to our problems.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying like, no, you go to God first and
Yeah, he
then
did say that.
wait for direction. But we often don't do that. We just, whatever is happening, we go to whatever source people tells us to go. Oh, you go to a doctor or you go to whatever. And I think it's really important what he said. You go to God first and then he'll direct you. So
What other actions
trust,
to take?
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
I've
also,
always felt that I used to say I have faith, but when crises happened, faith is actually not enough. You actually need trust. And it's a much deeper word than faith. Faith means I believe. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in heaven. That's easy. But do you trust God when things are going bad, that he's got it under control? And
Yeah.
that's
And he mentioned that he's like, you know what? Sometimes you just have to trust, like, just be still, you know?
yeah,
because sometimes it doesn't look like he's got it under control, does it? It
it
looks
doesn't feel like it.
It's scary. Sometimes it's really scary. You're like, okay, I don't want to jump
Yeah.
yeah.
because,
He, the other thing I thought that was really comforting, sort of comforting, but uncomfortable in that talk was he said, God invites us to grow by trusting his spiritual tutoring through soul stretching experiences. So really what he was saying is, if you just went through one of those, then you're going to go through more, because that's what his invitation is to. He invites us to grow by continuing to go through those stretching experiences and continue to reinvesting our trust in him. And
right. And that's
so,
exactly what moments are for, so
yeah,
that we learn to trust him until we don't have to go through that stuff anymore. You know
yeah,
what I mean? To the
yeah,
point that we have completely given our heart to him, where he knows we are converted. And then he'll be like, okay, you have passed the test. Or obviously
at
that's not going
least
to
on
happen
that
until,
one. And then he's going to give you a harder one.
That's right. It never stops. So,
Bump it
we
up.
get to a spot and you go, I've got it. I
right.
understand. I'm doing all the right things. I'm feeling comfortable here. So, yeah, stay tuned. There'll be another one.
How
Yeah.
exciting.
How exciting.
Well, that's why I said it's comforting, but not comforting.
And I think being single in the church is one of those tests. Like, can we be single? Can we have that faith that maybe this lifelong partner won't turn up to the next life? I mean, that's a big test.
Yeah.
Can you continue to serve? Can you continue to be a part of the family ward? You've got to not just isolate yourself and go, oh, well, as long as I stay in my little corner, I'm happy. It's like, no, we're still meant to be a part of the ward and participate and grow. And even if we have to just have that trust that this partner might not turn up, or they might. And that in itself is scary, isn't it?
And I think like staying worthy too, staying pure, because there's
staying
temptations,
pure.
there's so much going on. And it's really easy to just stop being worthy in that, get involved, start doing stuff that the world does, and considers normal.
That one's a tough one, isn't it? That's the view of like, well, you've got to look after yourself.
I know, yeah.
And that was actually, I think, another theme is that don't focus on your divine identity. Basically, they use the word identity a lot more, I thought, this in the talks, but don't focus on kind of the worldly answers and what the world is telling you, but stay true to your divine identity and go there first.
Now, one powerful talk, along with what you said, Kim, was President Hollins, the very first talk. That was very powerful. I think his message was basically, I forgot. No, he said like being prepared for eternity, like preparing ourselves for eternity.
Yeah, more earnestly.
Yeah.
More earnest than ever before. It's an urgent matter, is what he said.
Yes. Like you can see that he went through some stuff in the last few months after, and that happened like right after his wife's passing. Like he went through some stuff. Obviously, he even said it that he couldn't share some of those things with us, but he was different. He looked very different.
Yeah.
And his talk was very powerful to me. That was probably one of the most powerful talks because he's a really good speaker,
Yeah.
regardless. But this talk was very, very personal, extremely personal, which made it very, very powerful. And yeah, that was the key message. Like, get ready for eternity.
Yeah.
Like, don't lose your focus of eternity because that's really what matters.
The thing that really struck me, other than this is an urgent matter, because he really stressed that, was that Jesus needs to be able to recognize us. When he said that right at the end, I don't know if you remember that. You don't want to, you definitely don't want to hear, "I never knew you," from Jesus when we're there. And that really hit me. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Be devastating.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing. It was basically we need to be intentional in everything that we do. It's not just about doing the works. It's about really doing it with the heart. That's the intentional part. That's what God is going to look at. Like, okay, you're checking all the boxes, but are you intentional? Like you are really engaged in my work. Do you really want to know me? Do you really want to get close to me? Do you really want to feel my presence? Do you really want to feel my influence that will transform you? So that's kind of what I got overall, is that call to be intentional, not just going through the motions of the gospel.
Yeah, I think that was a very consistent theme. I was thinking there was one, let's see if I can find my note. I think it was the kayaking one, Elder Renlund's, because he basically was saying, what I really liked about his, because I did have a takeaway along these same lines. And sometimes I've heard this before from especially like older singles that are widowed and they've been sealed in the temple. And if they look at their patriarchal blessing, they have checked all the boxes. And so they're just busy enduring to the end kind of mentality. And he really stressed that the importance of not getting complacent. It was his whole message about the kayak was you have to keep moving. You have to keep.
Oh, momentum.
Yeah,
Spiritual
momentum. Yeah, spiritual momentum.
Yes.
That's what he said. Yeah. Yeah, he said, that was good. Go ahead.
No, it just comes to mind. That's what happened with Peter. He lost when he was walking on water. He had the momentum going, but then he lost it because of the distractions or his worries, doubts, and he began to sink.
Yeah.
And so little by little, we begin to lose our balance. Like that scripture right there that I'm referring to, it says that, and when Peter feared or he doubted or whatever, he began to sink. Like people don't begin to sink, you just sink. But it's interesting because spiritually speaking, it happens gradually. You begin to gradually go down and lose the momentum, and all of a sudden you're upside down. The boat is upside down and you're drowning.
Yeah. And that's what he said. We become vulnerable when we slow down or stop.
Yeah.
And we have to keep rowing toward the Savior.
I think that is an important one because it is hard when you get to a certain stage of life where you think, well, I've done it all. I've been there. I've done it. And I guess our apostles are probably examples of like, no, they're working like a whole bunch of them are in their 90s. It's like, how many 90-year-olds do you know that are working that hard?
Yeah. Good point.
And so
they don't give the adversary a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so there is a message there for older brothers and sisters who are, particularly if you're single, you do. I hear lots of people saying, I just want to die. I just want to go. And it's like message is, no, if you're on earth still, then there's actually something you're doing. Yeah.
When you keep saying that you want to die, you're going to stay alive for a very long time. You're not going anywhere. God is going to be like, nope, are you obviously not ready
a
to
new
die?
longevity plan. To hope to die.
But it does mean that you're here for a reason. So no matter what age you're here or what you've done, you're still here for a reason, and you need to go find that reason. And I think there was a talk about that, wasn't there? About go find your purpose. Go find
There was
what
one
it is.
purpose. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, and we all had the purpose when you're younger is really easy, isn't it? Like get married, have kids, get a good career. But there is this stage of life now of, well, now what?
Yeah. And as you get older, you start thinking, oh, well, I'm too old for that, or I'm too old for that. We can't think that way.
No, you can't think that way. It's like,
But again, we're never too old to serve others, you
It's
know,
true.
and love and show love for others. Yeah.
that's good. That's a good quote, Juan. Yeah, we're never too old to show love to others. There's always something that you can do, no matter how old, how sick, whatever you are. There's plenty still to do. So yeah, keep going, everybody.
Yeah.
There's a
And
lot
go
of
to
people.
seem to be
Go to the temple.
go to the temple. The people who are in depth in the temple, the ones that the temple workers know, there's a core group, and I presume they're at every temple, that are there all the time doing the work and enthused about the work. And it's something you can do at any age or stage of life. Temples are all set up for people in wheelchairs. It doesn't matter what stage you're at, you can still go. And I think it was that very first talk where he's saying, and if you're not going to the temple regularly, go more often. If you haven't actually got your endowments, go get them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a message that I got very strongly from this. Like,
I agree.
they're preparing us for the last days, and they're saying the safe place is in the temple. If you want to know how to survive the last days, go to the temple.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was just looking through my notes. I put Juan mentioned this the other day. I don't know if you even remember this one, but it was Alexander Dushku. He was saying darkness came to Joseph Smith before Christ. And I think you were telling me about how evil often comes before Christ. I think you were sharing in your personal experience, and then you had a list of examples. But his talk was about pillars of light, and that we get, little by little of light. And sometimes it doesn't come in those big doses of light, but that we get it little by little, and it is a pillar of light, but we may not notice it. Do you guys remember that talk?
Yeah, I thought that was a good analogy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We would all love that big, God in front of us and going, hey, you're fantastic. That doesn't happen for most of us.
Yeah.
But we do all get those little bits. And if you put all the little bits together, we actually have had our own pillar of light. We just
One
don't
ray at a time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think it's very bright. It's really, really bright. It's just that sometimes it's us that are keeping ourselves from seeing that, because God
We have
is
to,
there.
and that's why we've been told, isn't it, to write journals and to keep a list of all of the times that Jesus has helped us in our life, because we forget. It's so easy to forget that, oh yeah, I had that little miracle there and that little miracle there. And we need to put them all together and go. And it made me think, because I think I've often felt like, do I really have a testimony? Like I haven't had any big moments of, yes, I know the Book of Mormon's true.
Epiphanies.
Yeah. But I read it and I get a feeling here and an inspiration there. And it's been single rays that have given me that testimony.
Yeah, and that's exactly what his talk was about.
Yeah.
And then right after that was Ulysses. So I'll not get these names right. Suarez. It was on covenant confidence. So lots about covenants and covenant confidence, building our covenant confidence. My favorite talk, I don't know if I could pick a favorite actually, because I really liked a lot of them, but I really liked the one on integrity. That was Saturday morning. That was one of my favorites for sure.
Now that's interesting, because that's one that I've read on some other Facebook groups where people have been offended by that one. So
really?
That's one that not everybody's favorite.
Passionate about. I felt really in alignment with me, but then that's one of my that's a really important value to me, like my top two, faith and integrity. So maybe that's why, but I really liked that talk actually.
Do
Do you
you
guys have a favorite?
made any notes on that? Do you make
Yeah,
any notes?
I was just looking. I'm sure I have a lot of notes on it. Let me see if I can find it. See, trying to think what the timing of it was. Okay, I don't know if let's see. So this was the Saturday morning. Oh, yeah, here it is. It was the Jack Gerard. He talked about being true to God, true to each other, and to our divine identity. So maybe that's why I have divine identity in my mind right now, because I'm writing about that. But don't lower our standards of behavior. He talked about the fact that the new Preach My Gospel added integrity as a Christ-like attribute. And be true to what you profess, consistency between your words and your deeds. Those are all things that are just really important to me. He used the story of Daniel in the lion's den. And he said, others see God through our integrity. I have that starred lots of times.
Yeah. We are his representatives, you know. I mean, he's glorified through us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it just said it's insufficient if our actions are inconsistent with our words. And that integrity builds faith and trust. Gosh, I can't think of what they would not like in that talk. I'll have to go look at the complaints. Isn't that funny how something can strike somebody as really valuable and someone else it can be really offensive? It says lying is contrary to our divine identity. And the last thing I wrote on that one, which is what Juan always tells me, is reconcile ourselves to the will of God, which I still continue to work on. Wow.
What do you guys think about the new apostle?
Kieran? I think he's so eloquent. I really enjoyed his talk. His talk didn't have like tons of depth. It was just reinforcement of there are no roadblocks. And if you're feeling roadblocks, then they're created by you. He didn't say it that way, but
yeah, he was very precise in his talk. You know, God's intent is to bring you home.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very powerful to me, because that's all it is. That's what it's all about. Everything that God is doing is to bring us home, because we don't belong in this world. Like, as much as we want to make this world our home, it's not our home. There's a greater place that God is preparing or has already prepared. And his intention is that, you know, to do everything that he can, that we're like, okay, we want to be in your presence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I wrote on that one, employs every measure to bring us back. And then on top of that, he gave us Christ's atoning gift to remove every semblance of any kind of idea of a block.
The obstacle. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I really liked his talk. I love to hear him speak because he's very eloquent, I feel like.
Yeah, it was funny that soon after his talk, Elder Taylor, didn't he say, hey, can I borrow your accent?
Yeah, he did.
It would have been so much fun. He started talking like with the accent. That would have been awesome.
It would have. That would have been funny.
I like how we're getting apostles from more places
all around the world. Huh?
I like how the choir is now representing the world better. I like that innovation they've got of bringing in people from other countries. It's nice to see some different coloured faces in amongst it. I'm sure plenty of people feel that we need more of that representation.
Accents, yeah.
It's nice to see that happening. So, you know, that's exciting to see those sorts of changes as well, making it a much more worldwide representative church and feeling It helps us in the far-flung places feel more like we belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, it would be amazing when we see the first African American or African, I guess, doesn't have to be American, the first Black person as an apostle. That would be the day. That would be the day, man. That would be like, okay, the church is true.
It really is
Worldwide.
male and female. Yeah, it's will be great, and we're heading that way, and that's a great steps forward. And the faith of the Africans, obviously, we see that in the number of temples that they're getting as well, like the growth in Africa.
There's a lot of growth.
A lot of growth in Africa.
Yeah.
I like how they must practice people's names. You can see them when they're reading some of the names. They're going, okay, I practice this name. I can do this.
Yeah, I don't do very good on names. I need to do better.
I used to follow up a lot, but it keeps changing so much that I'm like, okay, I just listen to what they say. But yeah, Elder Taylor.
At least you can do some of the South American names. So it's like you've got that.
Oh, yeah.
You have a lot better coverage than we do. But you were saying about Brian Taylor's talk? Did you?
Yeah, swallow up in the joy of Christ. That's basically what his message was about. So it was awesome. It was a really good one.
Yeah, I took a lot of notes on that one. There was another one about trial. Do you remember the one about trial law? About being a witness, or the importance. He said he spent some of his law career working to get credible witnesses. Do you remember that one? And that was our job, to be credible witnesses. I liked that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There was also, I thought, a unique emphasis, because everyone always talks about prayer, but there were two talks specifically about prayer. One was geared towards the primary kids, but there was another one too about prayer. And I do think sometimes we just treat prayer, we treat it superficially, like we don't really invest in.
It's not as intentional.
Yeah, and in intentional prayer. And so I thought it was good that they put more emphasis on prayer and being intentional about our prayers.
It's funny because Ruby, my daughter's name is Ruby. She's like, Dad, I had a talk. There was a talk just for me.
Oh, that's cute.
That's right, baby.
That is awesome.
And of course, Elder Oaks, covenants and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Was a powerful one. Anyways, I can't wait to have them, can actually read them. There's some. Yeah, he says a covenant is a commitment to fulfill certain responsibilities. Personal commitments are essential to the regulation of individual lives and to the functioning of society.
And then he gave examples, right?
Yeah.
How valuable. I know we live in a world right now where people want to get rid of those things and don't understand the value and importance of it.
Yeah, he mentioned how some people are fighting because they don't understand agency. It's all about just doing whatever they want to do without any consequences. Yeah, no. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not like that,
Yeah.
Well, the thing about agency is that it's not being free of influence. It's to be free to choose the influence that you want to govern your life. Yeah. Because we're not free from the consequences of the choices that we make. So we're not really free in that sense, but we're free to choose which consequences we want for our lives. So some people who want total freedom, who don't care about the consequences, they don't care about hurting others. It's all about what they want for themselves. But the key of using our agency wisely is to consider others before we make a choice. Be like, okay, is this choice going to affect other people in a good or a bad way? And yeah. because we're not alone, guys. we're, not,
True.
we're not alone in this world. Our choices matter. I remember Elder Faust, President Faust. He said, "No choice is a private choice." Because anything
Yeah,
you do is going to have consequences, for good or for bad.
it's true.
Like the choice that you make in your own private little corner in the dark or whatever, it's going to have consequences. It's going to lead you to become someone that's going to be a good influence or a bad influence.
Yeah. There's actually a talk on that too, about what you do when you're in your private times. It was one of the Saturday evening ones, I think intended for the youth, but I think it applies to all of us. Are we gonna, when we're, especially when you're single, you have more alone time. Either your kids
Yeah.
are not with you, or you're an empty nester, or whatever the consequences. You have more
Yeah.
time by yourself, and what decisions you make in your time when you're alone
Yeah.
is really important and essential to make
So
good
the
decisions.
best advice would be, if you find yourself bored, like you're not doing anything, go to the temple.
There you go.
Go to the temple.
Don't binge watch whatever the latest craze is.
Yeah, start watching
That's
Netflix.
right. As LDS people, we should never be able to say we're bored, should we? There's
Yeah.
always something to do.
Didn't we say that as parents when our kids said we're bored? We're like, oh, I can fill that gap. I always said I have a long list of things I can cure that with.
And then they'll be like, but that's boring.
It's true.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the advice now too, is that even though we're not having to, when you had little kids, you really, as parents, you didn't get bored. There was tons of work to do. Don't have time. But now we do have time. Time is one of the things we have lots of. And so we do have choices of how we're going to use that time.
Yeah.
And even if you're not able to go to a temple for physical reasons or just distance reasons, there's plenty of work to do online.
It's true.
So
that was another, what we need to wrap up. We're out of time, but the last, I'll just mention my last favorite talk, and then you guys need to tell me yours, was on stillness. I think it was Bednar that talked about stillness.
Yeah,
only because I have a weakness there. I'm not very good at just being willing to sit in stillness. I always have to have a podcast or music, mostly podcasts or some learning thing going on. And it's important it's hard for me to sit alone with myself and my thoughts. It's actually scary.
Well, that's why you got to be still with God.
Yeah. So I'm not alone with myself, because that's dangerous. That's when the adversary sneaks in.
But it's so important, that stillness before God, because that's where transformation takes place. It's a powerful, powerful thing. But hey, we cannot forget about, was it Rusband's talk on words? Was it?
Oh, no. Yeah, it was Rasband on words. That was a good one. I know you like that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. He talked about the words of God, the words of the prophets, and our own words.
Words matter is what I wrote.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we know that when God speaks, things happen. Like it's going to happen. Whatever comes out of his mouth, watch out, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he talks, and then through the prophet, he communicates to us. But then also, when we speak, are we using our words to lift, or are we using them to tear down?
Yeah. He used a story, was it in Alma, where it says, now the preaching of the word was more powerful than the sword. I really liked that.
Yes.
That reference.
Right. Because, yeah, I mean, especially when we speak through the Spirit, that's when he's powerful. That reminds me of what the Lord told Hiram Smith. He said, if you obtain my word, then I will give you the power to convince men. So we need to obtain his word first, and then we can speak with his power to convince. Anyways, good stuff. Good stuff.
My favorite was President Nelson's final talk. I just thought it was
Yeah.
so, like it summed up the whole, temple theme of the conference.
Good.
On the temple, the gateway to the greatest blessings God has for each of us. And that nothing will help you more to hold fast to the iron rod than worshipping in the temple as regularly as your circumstances permit.
Yeah. He made me think I needed to go twice a week instead of once a week. I might have to change my schedule.
Yes, I felt that, and I imagine lots of people did, because it was very powerful. And because I work in the temple, I feel like I'm doing, and I'm thinking of going for myself. Well, it counts. It's still temple
It
work.
does count. It does count. I'm sorry.
But yes, I need to go and get those blessings. And the other week, we had quite a quiet. There was a gap. And so I went and did initiatories in the gap. And I love initiatories because it's where we get blessed to be, priests and queens. And like I don't know how anybody can debate the church's position on women when you sit there in an initiatory and get endowed to be a queen. It's like,
it also reminds me of the value of my garments. Like I rarely take them off, even to do a workout. I don't take them off to do workouts. Swimming, yes, but
yes. There was was it the Relief Society president? She gave her talk on garments and the importance. Really.
And Oaks reinforced it too, I think, in his talk.
So yes, so President Nelson's talk just really clarified the importance of the temple. But yes, that really, the one about garments was really helped us to, these are more than just our underwear, which we sort of, like after you've worn them for a while, they just become your underwear, don't they? But so
it's super underwear.
There you go.
One thing that he mentioned that I liked in that final talk was that he talked about other organizations, other churches and so on that are really good and that have this goodness to share and to help people, but only this church is the one that prepares people for the afterlife. You see, and that's what's different. And that's why the temples are so important, because it's the preparation for the afterlife. We're not concerned with this world. That's why we can't move here. We can't claim this to be our home, because this is not where we want to be. And so that's what the restoration and the gospel and the church is so different from any other organization. It's helping us to prepare for the afterlife.
I like the blessings. He stated that those who serve and worship in the temples can expect to receive answers to prayer, personal revelation, greater faith, strength, comfort, increased knowledge, and increased power. Regular temple worship will enhance the way you see yourself and how you fit into God's magnificent plan. I promise you that.
Yeah.
That's powerful words from a prophet, isn't it? I promise you that. And who doesn't want all those blessings?
Well, yeah. Well, some people don't.
Some people. People actually do. Everybody wants to know, to have greater personal strength and knowledge.
I don't want to pay the price. It's like that song or that saying, like everybody wants to go to heaven, but what is it? Nobody wants to do the work. I forgot. I don't know.
I don't know that song. It's not on my playlist.
Apparently not on mine either.
So yeah, like this quote, there's so many good quotes in it. Nothing will protect you more as you encounter the world's mists of darkness. Nothing will bolster your testimony of the Lord Jesus Christ and his atonement to help you understand God's magnificent plan. Nothing will soothe your spirit more during times of pain. Nothing will open the heavens more.
Powerful.
That's powerful words.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Good note to end on, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kim and Juan, for joining me today as we do this podcast. And it's so great to see all of the wisdoms and the strengths that we've gained from conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
It's a really
Salt
good
Lake.
conference. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.